ˈkaɾlos Slim Helú is a Mexican business magnate, investor, and philanthropist. From 2010 to 2013, Slim was ranked as the richest person in the world. The position was regained by Bill Gates in 2014 before Slim reclaimed the position again on July 15, 2014. Known as the Warren Buffett of Mexico, Slim has extensive holdings in a considerable number of Mexican companies through his conglomerate, Grupo Carso, S.A.C.V., have amassed interests in the fields of communications, real estate, airlines, media, technology, retailing, and finance. Presently, Slim is the chairman and chief executive of telecommunications companies Telmex and América Móvil, which was Latin America unregistered trademark largest mobile phone carrier in 2010, accounted for around $49 billion of Slim's wealth by the end of that year. His corporate holdings as of December 2013 have been estimated at $71.2 billion. Early life: Slim was born in Mexico City, Mexico in 1940 to Maronite Catholic parents, Julia and Slim Haddad and Linda Helú, both of Lebanese descent. His father, born ˈkaɾlos Slim Haddad Aglamas, emigrated to Mexico from Lebanon at the age of 14 in 1902 and changed his name to Julia and Slim Haddad. It was not uncommon for Lebanese children to be sent abroad before they reached the age of 15 to avoid being conscripted into the Ottoman army. 4 of Haddad's older brothers were already living in Mexico at the time of his arrival. cáɾlos Slim's mother, Linda Helú Atta, was born in Parral, Chihuahua, of Lebanese parents who had immigrated to Mexico in the late 19th century. Her parents, upon immigrating to Mexico, had founded one of the first Arabic-language magazines for the Lebanese-Mexican community, using a printing press they had brought with them. In 1911, Julian established a dry goods store, La Estrella del Oriente. By 1921, he had purchased real estate in the flourishing commercial district of Mexico City. These enterprises became the source of considerable wealth. In August 1926, Julia N. Slim and Linda Helú married. They had 6 children, Noah, Alma, Julia N., Joseph Copyright, cáɾlos and Linda. Julia N. Sr. died in 1953. Business career: Slim and his siblings were taught basic business practices by their father, and at the age of 12, Slim bought shares in a Mexican bank. At the age of 17, he earned 200 pesos a week working for his father's company. He went on to study civil engineering at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, where he also concurrently taught algebra and linear programming. After graduating from college, Slim began his career as a trader in Mexico to hone his business skills. He would then go on to form his own brokerage firm that later expanded to invest in individual businesses, ranging from construction and manufacturing to retail and restaurants. In 1965, he incorporated Inversora Bursátil and bought Jarritos del Sur. In 1966, already worth $40 a million, he founded Inmobiliaria Carso. 3 months later, he married Summa Damit Jamail, and they remained married until her death in 1999. Companies found within the construction, real estate, and mining industries were the focus of Slim's early career. By 1972, he had established or acquired a further 7 businesses in these categories, including one which rented construction equipment. In 1976, he branched out by buying a 60% interest in a printing business, and in 1980, he consolidated his business interests by forming Grupo Carso as the parent company of a conglomerate that had interests in industry, construction, mining, retail, food, and tobacco. In 1982, the Mexican economy, which had substantially relied on oil exports, contracted rapidly as the price of oil fell and interest rates rose worldwide. Banks and other businesses were nationalized, crippled, or collapsed, and the peso was devalued. At this time, and during the period of recovery to 1985, Slim invested heavily. He bought all or a large percentage of numerous Mexican businesses, including Reynolds Aluminio, General Popo, Bimx Hotels, and the Sanborns food retailer. He also acquired a 40% and 50% interest in the Mexican arms of British American Tobacco and the Hershey Company, respectively. He moved into financial services as well, buying Seguros de Mar copyright Zico and creating from it, along with other purchases such as Fianzas La Guardiana and Casa de Bolsa Inversa, the Grupo Financiero Inversa. Many of these acquisitions were financed by the cash flows from Cigartum, a tobacco business which he bought early in the economic downturn. In 1988 Slim added the Nakraba group of companies ʻEuro, which trade in copper and aluminium products ʻEuro along with the chemicals business, Quay Microfluor, and others. In 1990, the Grupo Carso was floated as a public company initially in Mexico and then worldwide. Later in 1990, Slim acted in concert with France Tar Copyright La Copyright.com and Southwestern Bell Corporation in order to buy the landline telephony company Telmex from the Mexican government. By 2006, 90% of the telephone lines in Mexico were operated by Telmex, and his mobile telephony company, Telcel, which was created out of the Radio Mercubeville Dipsa company, operated almost 80% of all the country's cell phones. In 1991, he acquired Hotels Calinda, and in 1993, he increased his stakes in General Tire and Grupo Aluminio to the point where he had a majority interest. In 1996, Grupo Carso was split into three companies, Carso Global Telecom, Grupo Carso, and Ingva Corporacia Cubed N. In the following year, Slim bought the Mexican arm of Sears Roebuck. 1999 saw Slim expanding his business interests beyond Latin America. He set up Telmex USA and also acquired a stake in TracFone, a U.S. cellular telephone company. At the same time, he established Carso Infraestructura y Construcción Cubed N. S.A. as a construction and engineering company within Grupo Carso. In 1999 Slim had heart surgery and subsequently passed on much of the day-to-day involvement in the businesses to his children and their spouses. Arma Copyright Rica Telecom, the holding company for Arma Copyright Rica Mercubeville, was incorporated in 2000. It took stakes in various cellular telephone companies outside of Mexico, including the Brazilian ATL and Telecom Americas concerns, Tectel in Argentina, and others in Guatemala and Ecuador. In subsequent years, there was further investment in Latin America, with companies in Colombia, Nicaragua, Peru, Chile, Honduras, and El Salvador. 2000 also saw a venture with Microsoft which led to the start of the Spanish T1 MSN portal, later renamed Prodigy MSN. In 2005, Slim invested in the Volaris airline and formed Impulsora del Desarrollo y el Empleo en América Latina SAB de CV, a Mexico-based company primarily engaged in not-for-profit infrastructure development. In 2007, after having amassed a 50.1% stake in the Cigartum Tobacco Company, Slim reduced his holdings by selling a large portion to Philip Morris for $1.1 billion, while in the same year also selling his entire interest in a tile company, Porcelainite, for $800 million. He licensed the Saks name and opened Saks Fifth Avenue in Santa Fe, Mexico. In 2008 he took a 6.4% stake in the New York Times Company, which increased to 8% by 2012. On December 8, 2007, Grupo Carso announced that the remaining 103 Comp USA stores would be either liquidated or sold, bringing an end to the struggling company, although the IT tech part of Comp USA continued under the name Telvista with U.S. locations in Dallas, Texas and Danville, Virginia. Telvista has 5 centers in Mexico. After 28 years, Slim became the honorary lifetime chairman of the business. He is also chairman of Telecopyright Fonos de Mexico, Arma Copyright Rica Mercubeville, and Grupo Financiero Inversa. Slim built Plaza Carso in Mexico City, where most of his ventures share a common headquarters address. In March 2012, Slim along with American television host Larry King established Aura TV, an on-demand digital television network that produces and distributes television shows including Larry King Now, Politicking with Larry King, Recessionista, and Jesse Ventura Uncensored. The network was used as an outlet to produce a news show for Larry King after leaving CNN. On April 23, 2014, Slim took control of Telekom Austria, established in 7 Central and Eastern European countries outside Austria, under a 10-year agreement, being his first successful acquisition in Europe. In a syndicate holding structure, the Austrian state holding company OIAG's 28% are combined with Slim's 27% ownership. América Móvil will spend as much as $2 billion to buy out minority shareholders in a mandatory public offer and invest up to €1 billion into the company, which it sees as platform for expansion into Central and Eastern Europe. Labour representatives boycotted attending the OIAG supervisory board meeting for 12 hours, criticising lack of explicit job guarantees. Personal life: Slim was married to Sumra Damit from 1967 until her death in 1999. Among her interests were various philanthropic projects, including the creation of a legal framework for organ donation. Slim has 6 children: ˈkaɾlos, Marco Antonio, Patrick, Sumra, Vanessa, and Johanna. Slim underwent heart surgery in 1999. Personal fortune, wealth: on March 29, 2007, Slim surpassed Warren Buffett as the world's second richest person with an estimated net worth of $53.1 billion compared to Buffett's $52.4 billion. On August 4, 2007, The Wall Street Journal ran a cover story profiling Slim. The article said, while the market value of his stake in publicly traded companies could decline at any time, at the moment he is probably wealthier than Bill Gates. According to The Wall Street Journal, Slim credits part of his ability to discover investment opportunities early to the writings of his friend, futurist author Alvin Toffler. On August 8, 2007, Fortune reported that Slim had overtaken Gates as the world's richest person. Slim's estimated fortune soared to $59 billion, based on the value of his public holdings at the end of July. Gates' net worth was estimated to be at least $58 billion. On March 5, 2008, Forbes ranked Slim as the world's second richest person, behind Warren Buffett and ahead of Bill Gates. On March 11, 2009, Forbes ranked Slim as the world's third richest person, behind Gates and Buffett and ahead of Larry Ellison. On March 10, 2010, Forbes once again reported that Slim had overtaken Gates as the world's richest person, with a net worth of $53.5 billion. At the time, Gates and Buffett had a net worth of $53 billion and $47 billion respectively. He was the first Mexican to top the list. It was the first time in 16 years that the person on top of the list was not from the United States. It was also the first time the person at the top of the list was from an emerging economy. In March 2011, Forbes stated that Slim had maintained his position as the wealthiest person in the world, with his fortune estimated at $74 billion. In December 2012, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, ˈkaɾlos Slim Helú remains the world's richest person with an estimated net worth of $75.5 billion. On March 5, 2013, Forbes stated that Slim is still maintaining his first-place position as the wealthiest person on the globe, with an estimated net worth of $73 billion. On May 16, 2013, Bloomberg LP ranked Slim the second richest person in the world, after Bill Gates. As of July 15, 2014, Forbes announced that Slim had reclaimed the position of the wealthiest person in the world, with a fortune of $79.6 billion. Personal assets: Slim owns the Duke Siemens Mansion, a 1901 Beaux Arts house on Fifth Avenue in New York City, which he bought for $44 million in 2010. The mansion is 20,000 sqft large and has 12 bedrooms, 14 bathrooms, and a .euro unregistered trademark S office in the basement. Philanthropy: Slim founded 3 non-profit foundations concentrating on Mexico City, one for the arts, education and healthcare, one for sports and one for downtown restoration. Fundación de cáɾlos Slim Helú, established in 1986. Fundación de cáɾlos Slim Helú sponsors the Museo Sumra in Mexico City, named after Slim's late wife, Sumra Damit, opened 2011. It holds 66,000 pieces, including religious relics, contains the world's second-largest collection of Rodin sculptures, including the Kiss, the largest dollar collection in Latin America, works by Leonardo da Vinci, Pablo Picasso, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, and coins from the viceroys of Spain. The inauguration in 2011 was attended by the President of Mexico, Nobel Prize laureates, writers and other celebrities. After stating that he had donated $4 billion of dividends to Fundación Club de cáɾlos Slim Helú, $2 billion in 2006 and another $2 billion in 2010, Slim was ranked fifth in Forbes' World's Biggest Givers in May 2011. Education and healthcare projects have included $100 million to perform 50,000 cataract surgeries in Peru through the Clinton Initiative, a $20 million fund to strengthen small and medium-sized businesses in Colombia, and a digital education program for youth in Mexico, $150 million for programs in nutrition and disease prevention in Central America with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Government of Spain, $50 million to work with the World Wildlife Fund on restoration of 6 areas for species in Mexico, including the monarch butterfly, and $100 million on education programs for young people through Colombian singer Shakira unregistered trademark esʻlin Foundation. Fundación Club de Telmex. In 1995 Slim established Fundación Club de Telmex, a broad-ranging philanthropic foundation, which as he announced in 2007 had been provided with an asset base of $4 billion to establish Carso institutes for health, sports and education. Furthermore, it was to work in support of an initiative of Bill Clinton to aid the people of Latin America. Because Mexican foundations are not required to publish their financial information, it is not possible to confirm Slim Helú unregistered trademark's claims of charitable giving through a public source. The foundation has organized Copa Telmex, an amateur sports tournament, recognized in 2007 and 2008 by Guinness World Records as having the most participants of any such tournament in the world. Together with Fundación Club de káɾlos Slim Helú, Telmex announced in 2008 that it was to invest more than $250 million in Mexican sports programs, from grassroots level to Olympic standard. Telmex sponsored the Sauber F1 team for the 2011 season. Fundación Club del Centro Hista Cubed Rico de la Ciudad de Mar copyright ˈkaɾlos. In 2000, Slim and ex-broadcaster Jacobo Zabludowski organized the Fundación Club del Centro Hista Cubed Rico de la Ciudad de Mar copyright cáɾlos, to revitalize and rescue Mexico City's historic downtown area to enable more people to live, work and find entertainment there. He has been chairman of the Council for the Restoration of the Historic Downtown of Mexico City since 2001. In 2011 he, along with the President of Mexico, Mexico City Mayor and Mexico City Archbishop, inaugurated the first phase of Plaza Mariana close to Basilica de Guadalupe. The complex, whose construction was funded by Slim, includes an evangelization center, museum, columbarium, health center, and market. Achievements: Slim has been Vice President of the Mexican Stock Exchange and President of the Mexican Association of Brokerage Houses. He was the first president of the Latin American Committee of the New York Stock Exchange Administration Council, and was in office from 1996 through 1998. Slim was on the board of directors of the Altria Group until his resignation in April 2006. Slim was also on the board of directors of Alcatel. Slim currently sits on the board of directors for Philip Morris International. He was on the board of directors of SBC Communications until July 2004, when he quit to devote more time to the World Education and Development Fund, which is focused on infrastructure, health and education projects. In 1997, just before the company introduced its iMac line, Slim bought 3% of Apple Incorporated's stock. In 2008 it was reported that Slim had shown an interest in buying the Honda Formula One team. Awards: Entrepreneurial Merit Medal of Honor in 1985 from Mexico's Chamber of Commerce. Gold Patron of the American Academy of Achievement, Commander in the Belgian Order of Leopold II, CEO of the Year in 2003 by Latin Trade Magazine, CEO of the Decade in 2004 by Latin Trade Magazine. Fundación Telmex received in 2007 the National Sports Prize of Mexico for sports promotion, In 2008 his philanthropy was recognized with the award of the National Order of the Cedar by the Lebanese government. In 2011 the Hispanic Society of America awarded Fundación Carlos Slim the Sorolla Medal for its contribution to the arts and culture. On May 20, 2012 Slim was awarded an honorary doctorate in public service from George Washington University. Criticism: the Mexican magnate's growing fortune has caused controversy, because it has been amassed in a developing country where average per capita income does not surpass $14,500 a year, and nearly 17% of the population lives in poverty. Critics claim that Slim is a monopolist, pointing to Telmex's control of 90% of the Mexican landline telephone market. Slim's wealth is the equivalent of roughly 5% of Mexico's annual economic output. Telmex, of which 49.1% is owned by Slim and his family, charges among the highest usage fees in the world, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. According to Celso Garrido, economist at the Universitat Nacional Autocube Norma de Mar Copyright Zico, Slim's domination of Mexico's conglomerates prevents the growth of smaller companies, resulting in a shortage of paying jobs, forcing many Mexicans to seek better lives in the U.S. Slim has stated, "When you live for others' opinions, you are dead. I don't want to live thinking about how I'll be remembered by Mexican people," claiming indifference about his position on Forbes' list of the world's richest people. He has said he has no interest in becoming the world's richest person. When asked to explain his sudden increase in wealth at a press conference soon after Forbes' annual rankings were published, he said, "The stock market goes up and down," and noted that his fortune could quickly drop. Slim has been publicly skeptical of the giving pledge by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett giving away at least half of their fortunes, but as of 2011 devoted $4 billion, or roughly 5%, to his Carlos Slim Foundation. Slim was criticized by Dutch Minister of Economic Affairs, Henk Kamp, in 2013 for attempting to expand his telecom empire beyond the Americas by armor copyright Rika Marcubdevil's buyout offer to KPN, a Dutch landline and mobile telecommunications company privatized in the 90s, by stating an acquisition of KPN by a foreign company could have consequences for the Netherlands unregistered trademark as national security. See also, Forbes list of billionaires, references. External links, official website, profile at Forbes, appearances on C-SPAN, Carlos Slim collected news and commentary at The Guardian, Carlos Slim collected news and commentary at The New York Times, Carlos Slim collected news and commentary at The Wall Street Journal, Carlos Slim at the Notable Names database, from the richest man in the world